As we go to air tonight, though, there's been a significant development to China's view of its role in the Pacific, with Beijing reportedly seeking a sweeping security and trade deal with up to 10 Pacific Island nations. The documents, which the world has been given access to, includes a draft communique and a 5-year action plan being circulated by Beijing. Now, the story is breaking as China's foreign minister is due to touch down in Solomon Islands after that country signed a security pact with Beijing despite objections from several Western countries. Now, the sweeping regional deal China wants with other Pacific nations covers a range of issues including security, trade, data and communications. Some proposed initiatives include holding high-level police training and establishing forensic laboratories in the region. But there does appear to be a pushback by at least one nation, the Federated States of Micronesia, which says the plan shows China's intent to control the region. In a letter the world has obtained, the nation's president, David Panuelo, warns it could spark a Cold War between Beijing and the West. Well, the Reuters news agency were the first to report on this story. Reuters Australia and Pacific Politics correspondent Kirsty Needham is with us. Kirsty, some really interesting reporting you've done on this issue. What exactly is this communique pushing for?
This really interesting that these concerns have emerged from the president of Federated States of Micronesia on the day before Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, arrives in the Solomon Islands. And he expresses concern in this letter that was sent to 21 other Pacific leaders. So perhaps it's not surprising that that has leaked out when it's been circulated so widely. But he's concerned that this is not about China striking bilateral agreements with individual Pacific countries, but a sweeping Pacific Islands, a multilateral agreement with a security dimension. So we have seen the headlines and the concern that the Solomon Islands Security Pact had prompted a month, 2 months ago. This goes much wider than that. It seems to take the Solomon Islands police training and but security cooperation much further. And it looks like a blueprint to start similar arrangements with other countries.
As you talk about, this is a significant shift from these bilateral agreements with each Pacific nation as they determine what they are prepared to agree to, but this goes to a multi-level strategy. Is this China's attempt to have a much greater say in the Pacific?
Well, I think that is the concern, and it might be why these documents have been leaked ahead of a meeting next Monday between Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, and around 10 of these Pacific nations that recognise China diplomatically. But this is only the second meeting between foreign ministers. There was a virtual one last year during the pandemic, and what we had heard and reported at the time is there was some unhappiness at the pressure that was put on Pacific Island countries to agree to China's wording and a communique that was released by China at the end of this. So when this draft communique, this time which has the security and policing dimension to it, has been circulated to Pacific Island nations, I guess the concern is that there will be pressure in this meeting to agree to Beijing's joint communique, and there won't be discussion amongst those island nations of what their concerns are and what they would like to see in any multilateral cooperation with China. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is we're expecting the Pacific Islands Forum meeting was supposed to be held early in June. Now, a date hasn't been announced yet. We know that it's soon. And island nations were looking forward to sitting down for the first time in 2 years face-to-face to solve some of their problems. We knew the Solomon Islands Security Pact was going to be high on that agenda. And this is the way they say they solve things in the Pacific. They get in a room and they talk face-to-face. And they wanted to do this without outsiders or, pressures from these major superpowers that suddenly all have their eyes on the Pacific.
Yeah, so interesting. Now, we talked about the fact that the president of the Federated States of Micronesia said that this should be rejected because he fears it could spark a Cold War between China and the West. What is the likelihood of these nations just going along with this agreement?
Well, there will be real pressure for them to do that. And I mean, he does mention in this, or he, references in this letter that, there is money on the table from China. A lot of these nations have great debt loads to China. They have relied on China for development and infrastructure. We see in the Solomon Islands 7 great stadiums for them to host the Pacific Games next year are being built by China. In places like Tonga, the dependency is even greater. So, it really does put pressure when there's that economic dependence there to agree to this kind of agreement.
Yeah, we will watch with interest, particularly, as you say, the Foreign Minister lands in Honiara. Good to talk. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.